Development Bank will hold its annual meetings virtually this month on June 23rd through June 25th. The theme of this year's meeting is Building Resilient Economics in Post-COVID-19 Africa. Ahead of the meeting, senior officials held a press conference with journalists. Representing the Africa Bazaar magazine, I asked about the fund's plan to develop, build, and support strong health infrastructure systems across Africa.
Think. Over to you now, Secretary General, a question on the status of the relationship between the African Development Bank and the new Biden administration. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, thank you, Simon, for that question. Let me set the record straight. The relationship between the United States and the bank was not on the rocks. I just want to be, even last year. So we need to be very careful how we characterize the relationship between the bank and the United States. The United States is a shareholder of the bank. And so there couldn't be singling out the United States as a shareholder and says that it did not have a good relationship with the bank during the era of President Trump. So I need to make that very, very clear so that the reporting can be very straight. Were there challenges in terms of issues around specific matters? Of course, every shareholder has a right to point out issues if they feel there was a need to point out, or there's a need to point out an issue. And so that doesn't in any way mean that relationship between the bank, because the United States, like every shareholder of the bank, is participating effectively, has even paid its part of its a subscription to the general capital increase that we did in 2019. So please, let's just get that straight. Now, with the Biden administration, it continues in the same fashion. President Biden is new, and of course carries on with the obligations of the United States as a shareholder of the bank, and recently invited the president of the African Development Bank to his climate summit that happened not too long ago. And that shows that the United States, as a member of the bank, like any other shareholder, is participating and encouraging and supporting the bank in every way necessary to meet the challenges of development on the African continent. So the relationship is robust between a shareholder and its institution, and just like it is with every other member. You can imagine all our member countries supported our general capital increase. We recently had what we call the temporary special callable capital, of which all our shareholder members supported. So please, the relationship is robust. The shareholder support is very strong and will continue to be strong, because the bank is that catalyst for Africa's socio-economic development and is in the forefront relating with all shareholders. Just before I finish, I wanted to get back to the question asked by Lesina. Lesina, of course, was asking the question as to how COVID will be covered. I just wanted to, I know he wasn't there when the opening statement was made. I just wanted to refresh his memory in terms of what the theme of the annual meeting is. The theme of the annual meeting is building resilient economies in post-COVID-19 Africa. That clearly indicates that COVID is around every discussion around the annual meetings. So COVID is being covered robustly. All aspects, every knowledge event is going to implicate how COVID has affected Africa and how Africa will bounce back in such challenges, and how Africa is prepared for such challenges in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. And just to add to some of the points that you've made, let me just also remind everybody that the President of the African Development Bank was unanimously re-elected for a second mandate in August last year. And if you want to get a better sense of the level of support that we're receiving, the bank is receiving from the Biden administration, I very much encourage you to listen to the endorsement and the statement that Secretary Janet Yellen made. You'll find it on our website under the GCA event. The endorsement that Secretary Yellen, who is also the governor, the US governor of the African Development Bank, provided to the bank only a few weeks ago. Now, we are coming to the end of this press conference. We do have only a few minutes in front of us. I would like, I think, and this is the last question that I have on my list, and this will be a question that I'll be putting, I think it's a general question, but more specifically, I think, to, again, Martha. And let me read this question to you that was put to us by Kemi Usokoya, the editor-in-chief of the Africa Bazaar House. Sorry, Bazaar, not Bizarre, Bazaar House. And this is a question. The US and the Biden administration just announced that it will send 5 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine to the African Union to be distributed across Africa. Earlier this year, Prime Minister Boris Johnson also announced that the UK will send over its vaccine surpluses to Africa. Given the theme of this year's annual meetings, and given that Africa is often the last on the list to receive urgently needed medicine during global pandemics, what steps is the bank taking to ensure that African economies develop and strengthen health infrastructure that will allow each country and the continent as a whole to respond rapidly to future pandemic or disease outbreaks? So I'll be taking responses for you. If anybody from the panel wishes to step in after Martha's intervention, you're most welcome to do so. And shortly after that, I would like to bring what I thought was a very interesting press conference to a close. Thank you. Over to you, Martha.
Thank you very much, Simon, and thank you for this question. First of all, I think the bank appreciates the donation from the US, from President Biden and the US, as well as from Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. This is extremely timely, as you have seen, because, like you put it, less than 1% of Africans have been vaccinated, and yet the pandemic goes on. So every single donation we would need on the continent will help in recovery as well as building back, starting the process of building back. Now, with respect to what the bank is doing, over the past decade, the bank has not been intervening in healthcare as a matter of course. What we have been doing was to respond to emerging needs. So when Ebola strikes, then the bank comes in and supports the country. And when COVID-19 struck last year, the bank came in also in a heavy way to support member countries. So the member countries look up to the bank for support in times of needs. And therefore, last year, the governors of the bank, when they sat at the annual meetings in 2020, they requested that the bank should really look at the way that the bank can support the continent in addressing health in general, by looking at what role we can play within healthcare infrastructure. Why? Because the bank ordinarily supports infrastructure programs on the continent, and this we do very well. So the governors wanted us to explore that. So what we have done is to undertake a very rigorous study on the needs on the continent and then propose solutions. And we are currently, preparing a strategy for healthcare infrastructure for the consideration of the board, as well as an action plan for pharmaceutical manufacturing on the continent. On the healthcare side, infrastructure side, we based on the challenges that we see ourselves really playing a role in supporting, secondary and tertiary care infrastructure. I shared with you the numbers are dismal in terms of bed density and availability of infrastructure to respond to the normal health challenges that we face on a daily basis, but also to respond to emerging crises. As you know, and as you have heard, pandemics are becoming regular, and therefore we need to be prepared. So we are exploring the strengthening of secondary and tertiary care to make sure that we expand the scale of infrastructure in that space. But we are also exploring digital infrastructure, labs and all the relevant, diagnostic infrastructure to make sure that Africa has capability to test. Africa has capability to provide, diagnostic services on the continent, which are really, really, in short supply. On the other hand, as you are probably aware, and we shared with you, financing from the public sector purse has been rather low, an average of about 6 billion every year. But what the bank has found in terms of infrastructure needs, through this diagnostic work that we have done over the year, we found that actually about $26 billion is required every year just to fill the financing gap in healthcare infrastructure. This is enormous, and it needs the bank to play a role. But what is also clear, though, is that the public sector by itself cannot address this challenge. So that's why we are going to leverage what we have as public-private partnership framework that we have come up with in order to support the member countries, mobilize private capital to complement what the public sector is doing in addressing healthcare infrastructure. So those are the key issues that we'll be doing over the next year and beyond to make sure that we address issues of healthcare defense system on the continent. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you very much, Martha, and thank you for reminding us of, I think there's a scale of Africa's needs when it comes to dealing with the pandemic. And also, I think we've heard in the course of this meeting, the scale of the support that the African Development Bank is providing to this continent, has been providing, and will continue to provide. Of course, the annual meetings will provide us with a fantastic and invaluable opportunity to further explore and discuss some of the issues, critical issues that we've been discussing with you members of the media today. I'm afraid that this is all the time we have available to us today. So on behalf of my colleagues, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to attend this pre-annual meetings press conference. We certainly look forward to seeing you again during the annual meetings in just over 2 weeks from now. And you have the contact information for our media team here at the bank. Some of them are here at the meeting. You will be familiar with Amba Mpoke Big, Richard Uku, David Mengi. They're all here to help you. So immediately following this press conference and in the days leading up to the meetings, the media team will be more than happy to facilitate one-on-one interviews with any members of our senior management team. You've heard them today. You can hear them again. Meanwhile, thank you all very much. Stay well and see you very soon. Thank you very much.